Hey everybody, JJ here. It is Friday, May 22nd, 2020. Back with another dose of economic reality here. The late payments, the delinquencies continue to stack up as the real economy is emerging from what a lot of people thought at one point that this was the best economy of all time. It turns out that the tale or the myth of the best economy was just an illusion based on asset bubbles and consumer spending from a consumer that relied heavily on credit cards and taking on debt to actually do the spending. Today we're going to talk about more failed economic reopenings. We're going to go over to Georgia. We're going to talk about the continued surge in unemployment, the delinquencies in mortgages and credit cards and car loans continues to get worse and increase even though the economy in some areas is opening back up. Even with the reopening, things are continuing to take a darker and darker path. So let's go ahead and get started right here. This is out of Mortgage News Daily, mortgagenewsdaily.com. First wave of forbearances almost doubles delinquency rates. Now we're about 8 weeks into the shutdown. That's roughly 2.5 months. Now inside this economic illusion, it had a lot of people believing that they were strong as a consumer, that they were rich because their home equity may have went up. But now we see those paper gains not translating into real spending power. Right? Simply put, people didn't have a lot of money put away for a rainy day or for, in this case, an emergency. Now, a lot of these homeowners might have felt rich because the home prices were elevated and their asset prices were up and their net worth looked pretty good. But when you have to go to the store and buy groceries, try telling the checkout lady at the cashier, or the checkout guy, of course, how much home equity you have to pay for those groceries. Well, it's not going to matter because if you don't have funds available or if you don't have a limit available on your credit card to swipe and buy these groceries, this home equity is nothing but an illusionary wealth effect. And in order to realize that wealth, that equity, you'd have to sell your home, and a lot of sellers are choosing not to sell right now. A lot of them are under the thinking that there's going to be this V-shaped recovery, the economy is going to reopen, they'll go ahead and relist their home in the summer, maybe in the fall when things are going to return to normal. Sadly, things may not return to normal, and I do see that hopeful forecast being put out there through some of the media. Right? Others not so hopeful. We know there's an agenda behind this. But the truth is, the reopenings that we have seen so far have been pretty miserable. Also, we've talked about this before. A lot of these homeowners are going to see that the forbearance did not eliminate those months of skipped payments. The balance is still going to be there. It's just going to be added to the back of the loan. And if things don't get better, if we don't see this miraculous V-shaped recovery, a lot of these homeowners are going to be in big trouble when it comes time to resume these payments. So if people were really rich and really had all this savings, why are the delinquency rates doubling? Doubling in just 1 month. From March to April, delinquency rates have doubled. So interesting stat, and that should tell you the real position of many of these homeowners. Business Insider article right here. Americans fell behind on nearly 18 million credit card and auto loan payments last month. Again, does this sound like a strong consumer? The best economy of all time. 8 weeks into the shutdown, the real consumer is emerging. The real economy is showing its head. Pretty sick looking, no pun intended, with the current economic situation and with the shutdown right now. Right? People were not ready for this. The average consumer was living paycheck to paycheck. These numbers are no surprise. If you've been here on this channel, you knew this was going to happen. You knew that as soon as these job losses started happening for whatever reason, this was going to happen sooner or later. The delinquencies were already starting to increase. But now we have the shutdown that's going to be the scapegoat, the blame for all the economic failures that have actually been stacking up for many, many years. And that makes it even more dangerous because everybody's going to blame the shutdown now. But here we are, 18 million credit card auto loan payments behind, and it's only continuing to get worse, even though the economy is reopening in some areas. Now let's talk about Georgia. Article here out of Politico. Reopening reality check. Georgia's jobs are not flooding back. We're seeing these reopenings met with huge drops, sometimes an 80, 90% drop in foot traffic and customers. Now, certain stores during this time are doing very well. The Targets, the Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Costcos, they're seeing a surge in customers, and a lot of it is because they do sell groceries at many of those places. And when it comes to Home Depot, of course, home improvement, many people at home now choosing to do more home improvement, so they're seeing a big surge in customers. But also a lot of the other businesses that are deemed not essential, or the small businesses that could not stay open, well, all those customers are just going to these big box retailers. So we're seeing another wealth transfer from small business now to big multinational corporations in a similar fashion as we see the wealth transfer from the poor and the middle class up to the upper tier, the top 10%. Even with the reopening, the attempted reopening, we're still seeing more and more people file for unemployment. Now, from week to week, the numbers are decreasing, but it's still more people filing for unemployment. So anyone telling you that things are getting better, that's kind of a deceptive way to put it. So let's say you went to work on Monday and you got 2 of your toes chopped off, and then the following day, Tuesday, you only had 1 of your toes chopped off. If you want to be positive, you could say, yes, things are getting better. On Monday, I lost 2 toes. On Tuesday, I only lost 1 toe. This is great, but you still went from 10 toes down to 7 toes in just 2 days of work. It's still not good. Things are still getting worse, and it's unlikely they're going to start getting better anytime soon. So anyone pinning your hopes on this V-shaped recovery, please think again, and please try to prepare for a worst-case scenario. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, just showing you the reality. And just look at these news articles. I mean, I've got all these articles here. You can look these up yourself. All right, this is reality. Another article right here, Norfolk Daily News, norfolkdailynews.com. U.S. farmers leaning more heavily on government loan programs. So our farmers, who really had a lot of troubles in the past few years, the supply chain disruptions, the restaurant closures, a lot of these farmers sold directly to restaurants. And we saw many farmers had to dump millions and millions of pounds of food. They had to dump milk. But even before the supply chain disruptions, before the shutdown, we were already seeing spiking bankruptcies from farmers, the cost of living, the property taxes. We also had some severe weather patterns that really threw a monkey wrench in the farmers' incomes. And again, a lot of these farmers not making it once something bad happens. So we're going to end up being a country where everybody's reaching out to get a government handout. And we need to ask ourselves, how did we get into the situation where the government is now going to be the savior of everyone? Do you really want to have the government be responsible for all of our lives? A government that cannot balance a budget, that put the country in trillions of debt? You want to hand over the government even more responsibility and have everybody on universal basic income, which is probably what's going to be what's coming. It's probably going to be a cashless society if I had to guess. Well, it's looking more and more like all of us, including the farmers, are going to be just dependent on the government. The same government that put the country in trillions of debt, the same country that decided to go ahead and invade a bunch of countries and spend trillions of dollars on wars, that really didn't make it much safer, probably made us less safe. The same government that can't balance a budget, that pays the typical politicians millions of dollars to sit in an office and make up new laws to further restrict our freedoms. Article here out of Consumer Affairs, consumeraffairs.com. New credit card accounts plunge by 73%. Banks, credit card companies, they are pulling back on issuing new cards. And many of the credit lines that are already out there, many of the cards are getting their credit lines slashed. So consumers are going to have a difficult time continuing to live off of credit cards. But that's okay. Remember, the consumer is strong. Remember what we were told for 2 years. Remember, they pointed to the holiday spending. Look at all the people that went out and spent on the holidays. The consumer is strong. No problems. Right? It's the best economy ever. What they did was they suckered people into a false state of security, and then the plug gets pulled. Maybe that plug was pulled on purpose, maybe not on purpose. There are many people saying that the administration responded too slow to this outbreak. Right? I'm not saying they did. I'm not saying they did it on purpose or did not do it on purpose. I'm just saying that, many people are saying that. They're reporting that. Right? I'm also not saying that this was a grand plan to pull the plug on the economy, but isn't it interesting how we were told how strong everything was for years and years, only to find out the harsh reality when there's a disruption in people's monthly paychecks. All right, so what can we do? Well, continue to try to either one, pay off debt, or two, stay out of debt. I try to hedge a little bit with gold, with silver, because I do think the Fed's going to continue to just pump endless liquidity into the system. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a long-term solution, but what it'll ultimately do is likely destroy the dollar when we do convert over to this cashless society. Right? So maybe we'll see hyperinflation, maybe we'll see deflation, maybe it'll be a combination of both. I don't think anybody really knows the exact answer on what's going to happen. Even economists that have been studying the markets for decades, a lot of them have contradictory views. Some people say deflation, some people say inflation. I say prepare for both. We might see deflation followed by inflation. All right, look at oil prices. Oil prices took a huge plunge. Now they recovered. The stock market plunged. Now it recovered. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dow Jones hit 30,000 later this year or higher. Right? They could pump this thing up to infinity, so no one really knows how far the monopoly men, the money makers, the market makers are going to take this. The fiat currency bankers. Right? What are their plans? You let me know. I'd like to hear from you down in comments on this one. Thanks for watching the support, everybody. Stay prepared. Hope you're well. And hope to see you here next time on the channel. Bye for now.